Hello, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design. This is the third video of our weekly lecture series for COM 1112, where I introduce the idea of what we're doing for the blog post and how that will help us with our end goal, which is making a still image video of the audio story that we did. I call this the animatic. So my first introduction to what an animatic was when I was a Simpsons fan, which I still am to some extent. Definitely some issues with a lot of their jokes, but we can talk about that later. There was an extra for one of their seasons, which shows an animatic for 12th season. And I want to just show this a little bit.
This new morning announcer sounds awfully familiar.
The goal of an animatic is to develop and understand what you're going to be seeing in your final product before you invest a lot of time in it. So here you can see here the juxtaposition of the final video that made it to air on the bottom right, and then some quick sketches that are blown up in the background. And they're not going to animate every frame. They're just animating enough for the producers and the artists to really see what's working and what's not working.
And finally, Bart Simpson should immediately proceed unescorted to the old sports equipment shed behind the school.
Now they have the audio track. They've done all of the audio voices. All the people spoke their lines, and so they do the audio first, and then they develop the animations to that audio. And so what you just noticed was a really long pause, right? And so this is something the animators and the producer or the developers work with, is how long should each of these cuts be. And so you're not going to animate everything first. You're going to see it in an animatic. And you'll notice when it cuts to the announcer, the speaker, in the real one, it shows the same cut in the animatic.
Proceed unescorted to the old sports equipment shed behind the school.
Ooh, did you see how it started zooming in when the audio of the sinister laughing happens? That's something you guys are going to start thinking about with your audio. When will you zoom in? Now, in Premiere, we don't have a Z-axis. We have two axes, X and Y. Just like this. They didn't draw the image bigger. They didn't draw frames where the speaker is suddenly bigger. They scaled it larger over time. That's something we're going to work with. So instead of zooming a camera into a scene, we're basically going to be working with these still images that kind of resemble a sketched scene in The Simpsons. Well, not The Simpsons. And then in order to show animation in this animatic, we are going to be scaling images. We are going to be rotating images. We are going to be moving images and animating them. So let's watch a little more.
So long, suckers.
So notice they panned this across. They probably did a really wide drawing and then panned it across. Now that's something that you guys are going to be kind of figuring it out, because you might have a picture of, let me get to here. You might have a picture of this recess area playground, and it has a lot of information left and right, and you might want to get it all in the picture, but if you did scale it, you'd have a lot of blank portion at the top and the bottom. And so you might take a really large picture in Premiere and just scale it moving, or not scale it, pan it from left to right to simulate a camera rotating or panning. Okay. Okay, so anyways, that's what an animatic is, and that's why I'm using the term to kind of describe what we're working in. We are in Premiere, and we are working with still images. So the first thing you're going to do probably is get to your audio. Oh, I didn't bring my audio in, so I'm going to double click in my project panel here, and I'm going to look for my audio. There it is. Let's just bring in my audio folder, and I will click on it and say import folder. Of course, it imports it as a bin. They call them bins, by the way, because in the olden days when we had film and tape, we put them into big bins that held these big rolls of film and tape. So that's why you're not calling it a folder. Now, because I already have this sequence made, I can drag this audio clip in. Here it is. Now let's look at this. You see how this just takes up a small portion of my timeline. I'm going to scale that down by left-clicking and dragging the right end of this bar at the bottom to scale it in. And if I play it...
Do you believe that music is a universal language?
Yes.
This is basically the audio story that we've heard so much of, right? So, okay, that's great. Now all I need to do here is go into my images folder and kind of... Well, no, you might not have your images folder yet. And so this is what you're going to do, I guess. You're going to listen to it.
Do you believe that music is a universal language?
What I might do here, and I think this will be fun for the video, is I'm going to really zoom in here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Here's my idea. I can hear, you know what, I'm going to double click this. And if I double click this audio, it's going to open it up in my source monitor, where I can also zoom in and really see my audio waveform. And you can see where it goes dun, 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 dun.
Do you believe that music...
I am going to, in the first few seconds, find images that cut from string instruments to really weird instruments that I don't know what they are. If that makes sense. Let's go ahead into the Google machine and actually pull up what I mean. So I'm going to say string instruments. I'm showing you this, by the way, because some people find it helpful that one of my videos that I have online is showing you how to download high-resolution images. So let's go to string instruments. If you go to tools and you go to size, you can say, hey, large, please. And I can kind of look up some really cool instruments. Here's some. So I might look up the names of some. Oh, you know what? Oh, let's just do this one. Here's one. I like this one. And what I'm going to do is right-click this and say Save Image As. You don't want to save the image from here, because this is a lower resolution image. Okay, so Save Image As. I'm going to call this... Make sure I save it in the right one. Comma 1112. This one, Images, Other Images. I'm just going to save it in here. I'm going to rename it something that's helpful, like Violin. You know what, I'm going to go ahead, because I'm going to give you access to this, I'm going to actually create a new folder called Google Search Images. And that's just going to be the ones that I do here. I'm going to call this Violin. Enter. I'm going to pause it while I find a whole bunch more. Alright, so I captured what I thought was a lot, or a good amount. And I'm going to go to find my images and bring in those Google search images and say import folder. What I was going to do was maybe make some marks here. So I'm going to tap M for marker and go to my markers page. Markers, click here and increase the out just a little bit so that I can start playing with it. There's one marker. I'm going to make an in point and out point, tap M, and sorry, I was just paused it for a moment. I'm going to add the first marker and just tap O1. I'm not going to do an in and an out point. Something weird happens when you do in and out points. I'm going to add another marker right about here. And I'm going to increase it. And my goal is to make a marker for every image I think I'm going to want to add. And I'm going to base it off of the stroke of the string instrument. So I'm going to mark this up and then show you what is going to happen when I'm done. I'm just going to pause it for a moment. Okay, so the reason I spent so much time doing this did take, this was about 10 minutes of my time, I think. I didn't watch the time. But I have these 10 markers here, and watch as I play the audio. Whoops.
Do you believe...
So it's not perfect, but what this is going to allow me to do is come into my sequence over here in my timeline, and notice these markers showed up in my audio right here. That's great. And I'm going to go to my images, and I'm going to go up a little bit to my Google search images. And I started off with, say, this image here. And now that I've done, and now I've dragged this violin image into my scene, but I know that I'm going to jump from image of string instrument to image of string instrument. And so I now have all of this hard work done. And if I ever want to switch these images out, it's actually going to be pretty easy to do that. So I'm going to take this image next. And these images come in at 5-second intervals. So they're going to be a little bit long. And notice how when I trim my image, it actually jumps, it snaps to the markers. So that's really helpful. I'm not even going to measure these now. I'm going to go that one, this one, there. I'm going to see my icons a little bit bigger if I can. And readjust my images as I feel so moved. And let's do this one. And again, all of my stuff snaps to the timeline. I think you should be well aware of that based on your Lion King stuff. Let's do... I'm not going to spend my time worrying about which one is which. And I may have some duplicates. I'm going to go ahead and pause this and let you know when I'm done. Okay, and after a little bit of work, here I have what I think is a good start. I'm going to hit Shift tilde, which is the squiggly line beneath the escape key. Whoops! Shift tilde. Select my program monitor, hit Shift tilde, and play it.
Do you believe that...
So I think it'd be fun to just rotate through all of the different Shift tilde types of audio, or types of string instruments during that little intro. And that's how we're going to add images to our timeline. And notice it's all on video 1. I don't know why they don't say it's video A and video B, because we do talk about placing B-roll on the second track, which will cover up cuts if you ever need to cut in the same interview, which we'll talk about that later. But the next thing I want to do is what some of you already asked, which is, hey, this image of this violin, which is this clip that my playhead is over, is too small, and I told you to double click the image here and just left click and drag it a little bit bigger like that. And I'm going to pause that and do that to every other single image. Click it, double click it in here, make it a little bit bigger. Okay? Alright, and so once I make all of those pretty much bigger to fill this resolution, I'm going to just play it back again. Shift tilde.
Do you believe that music is a universal language?
Yeah.
And there we have the first part of that. Now, that's where I'll stop it from here. Okay, bye.